So you can see yourself?
I can see myself. Yes, and I just want to preface all of this is I have been avoiding making a LinkedIn profile for probably over a decade. And I finally did it like a month ago. So I'm really interested to, yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Going through it. I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to do it at first because I only just created it. But I'm glad. I'm very happy to be here.
Look, I am loving it right now. Thank you so much because really, you're like so many people, right? There are a lot of people, many people who almost dread starting a LinkedIn account. And there are many who say, well, why do I need a LinkedIn account? So I'm glad that you've taken that first step and started an account because that's so much better than not starting it. So,
Right.
and now what we're going to do is we're going to talk today specifically, we're going to talk through your profile.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that we do in regards to LinkedIn behavior, which is how to respond, where to respond, words to use, and so on and so forth. That's another training. Today,
Okay.
you and I are going to focus on just your profile.
Okay.
That sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
Awesome sauce. So I'm just going to, I think the easiest way to do this is to start at the top and then work our way down. And to start at the top, I'm going to point really quickly to this person that looks like they're sewing some stuff underwater.
Mm-hmm.
This is wonderful. The first bit, the first thing your eyes can be drawn to on the page are two things. One, your picture, which you have a picture up there. Two, the background behind your picture. And what you want to do is think about this as marketing space. This is free marketing space for you. So you always want to have something in this section, in that section, that is educating your audience on who you are, what you do, what you value. So the first thing you've done is really great. You have an image there that I'm assuming is tied to the industry you want to work in. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome sauce. So the only thing we could do to now improve this is to find a way to, are those your hands?
Yes, they are my hands.
Then maybe we could find a way to squeeze it down to have your
Okay.
face in it, right?
Okay.
Because this is all, again, it might be this image or a different image, but there's a difference between saying, oh, she has a picture because she enjoys this industry or this is something that's interesting to her versus, oh, shoot, she's actually doing it, right?
Okay.
So there's a different, like what you may see on some people's pages, like if they're a public speaker, they have them generally themselves speaking in front of an audience. If you have someone doing IT work, they may be actually consulting or talking to someone, maybe working on a code, whatever it may be. But the more imagery you can tie yourself to in that industry, that brand you're trying to create, is what benefits you.
Okay. That makes sense.
So then what I'm going to do is now take a step back and say that the approach that I teach from is called the 4C model. So it's 4C relationship building model. So all the work we're doing here is preparing you and positioning you to build relationships. Very quickly, the components of this 4C model is first, mindset change. Understanding that utilizing these types of skills, utilizing these types of platforms, utilizing specific strategies to help you gain relationships with people is not bad. If you believe those things are bad, you'll never do it. If you believe, if you're like so many people, it doesn't matter all this stuff. I'm just a hard worker. And as long as I'm a hard worker, my work will float to the top. BS. That's not the world we live in. So all these things are really important. The first thing is mindset change. The second is internal clarity. Internal clarity is then understanding what are your goals? What are you interested in? What are your strengths? What are your abilities? Where do you feel most comfortable? really truly understanding yourself so that you can position all of your messaging, all your branding, and position you to be in places that are going to ultimately give you an advantage. I give you a quick example. I don't like large groups of people. Um, I'm a public speaker, yes, speak to hundreds of people, 6, 7, 800 of people at a time. But when I'm building relationships, when I'm networking, I don't like being in closed spaces with a lot of people, like the whole happy hour networking, arm rubbing thing. That's not me. I know I feel most comfortable when I'm working with someone one-on-one or a small group. So I'll intentionally go to conferences or talks or book readings, because I know there's generally a smaller number of people that then I can just kind of talk to and say, hey, I love what you said. Can I call you another time? Let's schedule time to talk one-on-one. The reason why I bring this up is because when you can position yourself where you feel comfortable, when you're comfortable, you tend to look more confident. And when you're more confident, people begin to trust you and believe you more, right?
Right.
And why we want to be very intentional with positioning yourself where you're most comfortable. Now, again, there are times where you're going to have to do things outside of your comfort zone, but whenever possible, you want to position yourself to be comfortable and know where you're heading and so on and so forth. The next C is external clarity. External clarity is understanding now, who are you trying to reach? Where they're at? What are their interests? What are their needs? Who are their friends? Who are their enemies? What associations are they part of? Now you're understanding who it is you're actually trying to reach out to, so you can find those people and build a relationship with them. And then finally, the last C is behavior choice. That is the words that you use, how you position yourself, shaking someone's hand, looking them in the eye, all that blah, blah, blah stuff, which is really important. There's a lot of research behind it. But none of that matters if you don't mindset change. The mindset change, you never do any of this stuff. None of that matters if you don't have internal clarity. If you don't have internal clarity, you don't know where you're heading. You need to understand where you're heading so you know who to connect with. If you don't have that, then you have external clarity. External clarity is again understand now who to connect with and where and how to connect with them. Finally, you have that behavior choice, which is the actual actions and behaviors you take. So any questions about that? I know that's a very quick run to kind of get us going.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions right now.
Awesome sauce. Okay, so we started in the beginning with just the top of the screen, which is that free marketing area for you, that if possible, you want to find a way to put your face or something in there that attributes this to you. Again, bare minimum, this is good because it shows people that what you're interested in. The next level, we trying to find a way to introduce your face or you into the picture.
Okay.
The next thing as we go down is your profile picture. I love it. You have your smile is one, you have a smile. That's important. You have a very approachable smile and face. If you want it to, the next level is to have a professional profile picture taken of you.
Okay.
Depending on where you are in the country, this could be super cheap. It could be like $100. If you're in DC, it could be much more than that. But if you're in the DC area, I actually have some friends who maybe will do it for a cheaper price. But I think I have a friend did around $250 out here. Exactly. So it depends on where you're at. I'm doing a photo shoot for my business that's costing me $1,000. It depends on where you're at. For you right now, you don't need to do all that extra stuff. So you have a great smile already. If you want to take it to that next level, I get a professionally taken profile picture. And then to look back at your picture and that other image, the worst things you could do is to leave them blank.
Okay.
Because exactly, right? Then people think it's spam. So I don't connect to those people. If you haven't taken the time to put a picture up, at least a profile picture, I don't trust it. And there's a lot of people who feel the same exact way. So then moving down to your name, I love that you've taken the initiative to put the that translator here. So Oh, it does speak. I heard it earlier. It says your name, which is really great. This is something that not everyone does, but this is definitely great, especially if you're working with people who may be from other countries. And in your industry, I believe that you work with people who may be from other places. You're in the science industry, science field. And so there's scientists all across the world. So actually having that is definitely a plus, especially if you want to build relationships outside of the United States.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I really like that they have that feature. I haven't seen that before. I know my name is kind of unusual, so I have a lot of issues with people pronunciating it or pronouncing it. Wow. um, so yeah, I found that to be helpful.
So now we're going to start diving in a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
So where your descriptor right now is PhD candidate at University of Alabama, Bridgingham. I want you to think of your profile as a Google search.
Okay.
Okay. So think about SEO. When you're putting this in here, the question really is, what do you want to be known for? If someone was looking for you, what would you want them to be typing in? For example, would they be typing in researcher, scientist, expert, blase blah? What is it that you want people to know about you? So not only when they come to your page, they see those words, but also when they're typing them into that search function, your profile will come up.
I see. Okay.
So you could do something like leadership development. So again, this is a search engine. People forget this. It's not just a profile, it's an actual search engine. So it pulls up jobs in leadership development, groups, services. You can actually click on leadership development and it'll take you here and you'll find people who have leadership development in their profile.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So this is really helpful for you. So not only when you are building out your profile, you put keywords in there so people can find you when they're looking for these things. Again, think about what particular area of science you enjoy and find ways to put that those words in that heading you have at the top. Okay. As well as later down in your description and other places.
Okay, that makes sense.
Awesome. And then what you want to do when you break them up, you want to break them up using the little lines. So let me show you an example. Mita, she is wonderful. Mita, so look at how she kind of breaks it up. Crafting brands and purposes, break. Top LinkedIn voice, break. Inclusion champions, break. Those breaks symbolize for the platform, okay, here's another topic, right? So this is something you're going to want to utilize. So you're a PhD candidate, absolutely. And what else are you? Right?
Okay, right.
And we're going to use Mita a couple of times because she's one of my guests of my podcast, The Executive Pill. So I'm going to keep picking on her because she has a wonderful profile. Now, the next thing, 15 connections. Don't worry. I know you just started. The number you want to get to is 500.
Okay.
500 connections is your first goal. Why? Because after 500, it no longer shows the number.
Oh.
Anything over 500.
Okay.
So if you're at 499, people know you have 499 connections. But if you have 600 connections and it'll say 500 plus, and they don't know exactly how many you have, but they do know that you're active to some level. Okay. And again, another thing to think about is if you have less than 500, that does give people the question, how active is she? Is it worth me trying to reach out to her on here? Is she even going to see the message? So this is why it's important to have at least 500. Again, we have another time to talk about how to get that 500. But today, again, we're just working on just the profile. Okay. Any questions as of yet?
No. No.
Awesome sauce. So we're going to scroll down just a bit, and I'm going to show you that I'm doing this on purpose. We're scrolling down. You say your interests, your skills, your license certifications, education, experience, activities, no bio.
Oh, okay.
Bios are really important. Let's just see if I can use someone else. Let's go to this person's bio. This is random people right now. So first, as you see, this person has 500 plus connections. So you have no idea how many connections he has, but you know he has at least 500.
Right.
Now, you want to have the bio section, which is the about section.
Okay.
Now, this is not a knock. So if this person sees me talking about their profile, please don't hate me. I'm just giving advice. So in your about section, you actually want to, let's see if I can find a different example. Great example. So in your about section, you want to speak in first person.
Okay.
I'm Lisa, or I'm Elise, I'm whatever, and I do this. I'm focused on X, Y, and Z. These are my passions. This is where I'm trying to go. You want to talk in the first person because LinkedIn SEO, it can detect whether you are talking about yourself in the third person or the first person. These platforms like storytellers, and they like it to be a real person. Okay. So their algorithms can kick up and say, hey, this person's talking like they're an actual person, versus Elise is such a wonderful person. Elise has done X, Y, and Z, and Elise da 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 da. Make it personal, and make it about your story. I'm going to go back to, again, we're going to get back to your profile in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you again another guest of the podcast, Britton Blotch, who is the vice president of talent acquisition and head of recruiting at Navy Federal Credit Union. And again, she had a really great episode on standing out and positioning yourself to be selected for positions. Her and I had a really great. So you should check out the executive appeal when you get a chance. If you go to her about section, again, this is not exactly how I would recommend for you right now, but the about section should somewhere in here try to talk about who you are. Okay. What's your story? Why are you interesting? Britton she's gotten to a level where people want to talk to her, period. I'm just going to be real. She's awesome. She's the VP of Talent Acquisition at Navy Federal Credit Union. People are searching for her. But for individuals who maybe aren't being searched for just yet, your about section can be what makes someone want to talk to you. Okay. So if you were to check out the about section on my page, I actually talk about how, hey, my first job was in the federal government overseeing X, Y, and Z. And I'm really passionate about working with government employees because of A, B, and C. And this is my focus. And if you're interested in these things, then you should reach out to me. It's not my resume. My bio is not to be my resume. It is my opportunity to show some of my personality with you and hopefully intrigue you enough that you want to reach out and speak to me. Okay. And I can't tell you how many people in the past have reached out to me and messaged me just because they've seen my bio and they were like, this is really interesting. I'd love to hear more about your story. Cool. Okay. So then we'll go down just a bit to your experience. Again, I really like that you talk about yourself in the first person. I am a Marine ecologist training in coral. I am a Marine ecologist training in coral psychology. That's a thing.
Oh, it's physiology.
Physiology. Sorry, that is really cool. But to our point earlier, maybe this is something you put up here. Right. Yeah. Right. You don't gotta say I am. You say ecologist training in coral physiology. Right. Or some other phrase. Use those things that you're trying to stand out. You want people to know from the jump what you're about, who you are, and why they should be interested in reading more about your page.
Okay.
So you have your experiences. This is really great. You have all these things listed. This is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You go down to your education. This is great. You have license and certificates. Absolutely. You want to show people that you're serious in your field. Absolutely. And then you have your skills and your interests. A couple things that are not here that I want to encourage you to consider. I'm going to go back to my good friend Mita or Maita. I think she has it on her page. So what you'll see on her page is also recommendations.
Oh, okay.
So think about recommendations like Yelp or Google reviews. The reality is most of us like to read reviews on products before we buy, right? It allows us to know, yeah, I know, at least can say she's awesome. What does the people who work with her say she's awesome, right? And this is the opportunity for you to have people say you're awesome.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is twofold. One, if you don't have recommendations, you're absolutely right to not have it on your page, because you don't want to have a section that's blank. The other thing is you don't want to have a section with recommendations that are only 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, because then the question becomes, oh, what has she done lately? So you want to consistently be updating your recommendations, and all you got to do for that is to reach out to people and ask them for a recommendation.
Okay.
Look at people you're interning with, your supervisors, program managers. If you are farther in your career, as supervisor, customers, those are all really great to have people do recommendations for you. And what I encourage you to do is to take this one step further. When someone asks me, I learned this back when I was in college, when I asked my professors for a recommendation, they said, yeah, sure. Would you write it? Oh, I got to write it. Well, first you're annoyed, right? Until you realize like, oh, if I write it, I get to say what I want said about me. And that is why writing your own recommendations is actually really helpful.
Okay.
Because what you do is you make them have to do less work, because all they're doing is editing, and you increase the likelihood of them saying what you want them to say about you. When you ask someone, hey, can you write me a recommendation? They may talk about how you're great at Microsoft Word, but you want them to talk about how great you were at diving, right? So help them help you by being the one to volunteer, say, hey, look, I'm happy to write the first version for you, if that would be helpful. And generally most people say, oh yeah, sure, thank you. And you send them, they may make a few edits, but generally speaking, very few edits are made if you're not being super pompous.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know the first time I ever had someone mention that to me, I thought it was so unethical. And it was a poor grad student I was asking for a letter of recommendation for, and I was like, I'm not comfortable doing that. Luckily, he did write me a good one. But yeah, wow. I wish we could have had this conversation years ago.
Oh,
I feel bad.
No. Hey, look, we all learn, and I can tell you, I initially learned it in undergrad, but then when I was working, I created and managed the executive leadership development program for the Department of the Interior when I was 23, and I still remember my supervisor, who was an executive, having me write my own review. And again, at first I'm like, is this legit? But it was wonderful because all he had to do was make edits, and I got the kudos that I felt I deserved. And the reality is that there's a lot of people, and they may forget certain key things that you've done, or they mix it up with this person and that person. So you're really, all you're doing is you're providing them with a draft that they have the ability to change.
Right. Right. It makes sense. It is a lot less work for them.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I don't write recommendations unless someone, you gotta be really close to me for me to actually write one for you. But generally speaking, I need someone to write the first draft for me, because it's one, it's easier, but two, it makes sure that I'm giving them what they want versus me just writing something. So we've talked about a lot so far. So I want to take a step back and say, do you have any questions, comments, reactions?
I don't think so. You've given me a lot to think about. I have to say, being in the science field, when you think about marketing, I don't really think about marketing myself at all. So I think that's going to take a little while to wrap my brain around. But it makes sense. It totally makes sense. Yeah, I'm so used to being in like the concrete world, like, well, this is my job title, not thinking about like all these different roles that I'm fulfilling too. Yeah.
If I can recommend or propose a different way of thinking about this, maybe not marketing, maybe educating.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right? You're educating your audience on what skills and values and abilities you bring to the table. Okay. And from a science background, you understand there's research behind certain things that say the people are more likely to receive and retain information if you share it with them a particular way. Then it only makes sense to share it with that particular way, right?
Definitely.
So this is super ethical. All you're doing is helping people understand what value you can bring to the table to help them.
Right. Makes sense.
So one thing that I wanted to throw on the table for you is that I don't see on your site just yet is features.
Okay.
So again, she is just easy to use. I'm going to use Meta again. If you scroll down just a bit, you will see featured. This is a section on your LinkedIn that you can add links to articles you've written. You can add documents if you've done reports or thesis or things that you've contributed to. Okay. This is a great opportunity to let people know if they land on your page, again, what you're interested in, and actually see some of the work that you've done.
Cool. Okay.
So I utilize that. I definitely utilize that.
Okay.
So I know I've spit a lot of information at you in a very short amount of time, but I'm hoping that you found this of value. And so the next step will actually just be learning, now that you have the understanding of what a profile can and should look like. The next thing is behaviors. What do you actually do to increase the chance of people coming to your page? What do you actually do to increase the chance and likelihood of people not only coming to your page, but engaging with you? And then the next thing is not only engaging with you, but staying connected with you and finding some way to do some work together. And we will be discussing that at our next time together. Awesome. But for you, I want to leave you with one last bit of just something else to think about. Do you watch baseball? Do you watch baseball?
I've watched baseball before.
So you do know
follow it, but
do you know batting averages, like what a normal batting average is or something like that?
I don't.
Okay, so I can tell you a normal batting average is not 100%, right? It's not 80%. It's not 70%. It's not 60%. It just keeps going lower and lower and lower. Let's say someone with a 30-40% batting average, they're not bad at all, which is very interesting. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't seem like a significant percentage. But If you compare it to the average person who's probably not hitting 1% or 2% or 3% of a fastball that's moving 90 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, that's significant. I'm sharing this with you because everything we do here and everything we do on our next time together is meant to increase your batting average. Is
Gotcha.
meant to increase the probability of your success. Will any of these things guarantee your success at 100%? Absolutely not. What it does do is make there be a larger differentiator between you being a major league pro person hitting 30, 40% and someone who's not trying or doesn't know how to do it, who's only hitting 1 or 2%.
Okay.
If someone said they could increase your rate of success by 10 or 15%, or even 5%, would you find that to be valuable?
Definitely.
Absolutely. So this is what we're doing. We're building that incremental change to help you ultimately successfully not only promote the research and the work you do, not only to do really good work for the organizations and companies you work for, and maybe one day you create, but also position you, something that's important to me is position you to be successful in your own life. So you have the resources you need. And resources, what do I mean? Money. Money is not everything, but money buys the stuff that you need. It buys food, it buys shelter, it buys water. It allows you the opportunity to have a vacation. So I want you, through all of these resources, to not only do good for your organizations and for those around you, but also do good for yourself, because you matter. You do matter. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate being here with you. And I guess we'll talk again later.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
See ya.